if he were an adult, he could spend the rest of his life in prison.
Unmanageable, and dangerous.
While May 2017, in Boynton Beach, Florida, two boys, barely out of childhood, dragged a girl behind an abandoned house and threatened to beat her if she didn't obey. What happened next shattered a community and proved that even the youngest can hide the darkest intentions. These are 8 of the youngest chomo of all time.
So a big story tonight at 9. She came in contact with pure evil. That's how a woman describes her encounter with 17-year-old Traante Kirk. The Milwaukee teen has been charged with sexual assault multiple times.
January 2025, the city of Milwaukee in Wisconsin was rocked by a shocking pattern of violence involving 17-year-old Traante Kirk. His crimes involved multiple victims, vicious attacks, and a trail of destroyed lives. What's even more disturbing is that Kirk wasn't just a troubled teen who lost his way. He was a serial predator who would have kept spiraling further if he hadn't been caught. Kirk didn't plan his attacks in advance or pick his victims with care. He simply watched, waited, and struck when the moment seemed right. Surveillance footage showed him following 54-year-old Charlotte Nozar as she limped home from the store. She had recently had surgery, a weakness Kirk noticed and took advantage of. Charlotte's nightmare unfolded in her apartment building's elevator. Kirk had told her he had forgotten his key, so she let him in. And then, in the elevator, he threatened her life, telling her, "Shut up and let me do what I'm going to do and you'll make it out alive. Don't you know this is Milwaukee? I'll kill you."
He's not going to take my sense of self. He's not going to take who I am.
The case shocked even seasoned legal professionals. The presiding judge admitted, "It's probably one of the first times in my life that I could say I was speechless." What's more, this wasn't even Kirk's first offense. Assistant District Attorney Corrine O'Byrne said, "This is the 4th time he's been accused of sexually assaulting someone. This is a vulnerable victim." The pattern was unmistakable and deeply unsettling. Kirk's violent behavior began early and only seemed to be getting worse. 2020, juvenile court found him guilty of 2 counts of 4th-degree sexual assault involving 2 different people. The system tried to rehabilitate him, but failed. And this was why Charlotte became determined to protect others.
For anybody to save me, but I can help prevent this from happening to the next person. And I don't want anybody to have to go through this.
Charlotte's injuries weren't just psychological. Her physical injuries were severe. She suffered significant nerve damage in her leg from being stomped on and required multiple surgeries. The emotional scars, though invisible, ran even deeper. The judge recognized the gravity of the situation and acknowledged the broader implications of Kirk's actions on community safety. Kirk's bond was set at $300,000. The court recognized the threat he posed to the community and took strong measures to ensure he couldn't harm anyone else while awaiting trial. September 2025, Kirk pleaded guilty to 2 counts of 2nd-degree sexual assault and 1 count of aggravated battery in Milwaukee County Court. He is currently waiting for sentencing. Charlotte Nozar plans to go to his sentencing hearing and ask the court to give him the maximum sentence. In an interview, she said, "I had to let go of the hate and anger. I'm planning on going in there with both barrels blazing and advocating for the maximum sentence on all charges to run consecutively." He faces up to 53 years in prison, followed by 33 years of extended supervision. Kirk's case proved that age doesn't soften the horror of a crime, and he wasn't the only minor capable of such brutality. Hundreds of miles away, another young predator in the UK would soon show just how dark things could get. July 21st, 2025, a 16-year-old boy sat in the Salisbury Crown Court dock, his face expressionless, as the judge handed down an 8-year sentence. This teenager, whose name remains protected by law, had just been convicted of a series of horrifying sexual crimes that shook South Wiltshire to its core. For months between May 2023 and December 2024, he used social media platforms to hunt for victims, girls younger than him. The method was always the same: connect online, spend a few days building trust, then persuade them to meet in person. But these meetings always ended in isolated locations where he would assault them. What makes this case even more disturbing is the perpetrator's own admission. In a TikTok video, he described himself as a serial rapist, a chilling confession that would later become crucial evidence in court. So basically, this wasn't a one-time mistake or a moment of poor judgment. This was calculated, predatory behavior by someone barely old enough to drive. The investigation revealed a clear pattern. Each victim was targeted through social media and then lured to secluded areas. In police interviews, the teenager initially denied knowing most of the victims. But as evidence mounted, including eyewitness testimony, CCTV footage, and his own incriminating TikTok video, the truth became undeniable. Detective Constable Dan England, who led the investigation, called it heinous and used the opportunity to highlight the growing problem of toxic sexual behavior among some boys. He said these toxic behaviors, which can stem from a variety of societal influences, must be addressed through education and open dialogue in the home, at school, workplaces, and throughout our entire community. Senior Crown Prosecutor Lucy Paddock described his behavior as an escalating pattern of predatory behavior. She noted his complete lack of remorse for the trauma he'd inflicted, pointing out that he only ever admitted guilt when confronted with overwhelming evidence. In the end, the court found him guilty of 5 counts, 3 rapes, 1 outer-sexual assault by penetration, and 1 sexual assault. His sentence was 8 years in custody, first at a secure training center, then a young offender institution, followed by 6 years on license after release. But justice didn't come easily. The victims had to relive their trauma in court, though prosecutors arranged for each to give evidence in the way that was most comfortable for them. Their courage in coming forward was instrumental in securing this conviction. Detective Constable England praised their bravery, saying, "It is their bravery in coming forward that has brought this perpetrator to justice. I applaud their strength in the face of such unimaginable trauma, and thank them for putting their trust in us." The sentencing also included an indefinite restraining order against the victims, ensuring their ongoing protection. But as shocking as Kirk's case was, our next story proves that age is no barrier to darkness. The next young perpetrator would commit a crime so brutal that it left even seasoned investigators and an entire nation stunned.
Vicious attack on a teenage girl outside a library left her paralyzed and blind. Kendrick Morris was supposed to serve 65 years in prison, but an appeals court ordered Morris resentenced because he was a teenager when that crime happened. Well,
April 24, 2008, the quiet of a Tampa suburb in Florida was shattered by a phone call that ended in screams. And Kendrick Morris, just 16, would forever alter 2 families' lives outside the Bloomingdale Regional Public Library. At first glance, Kendrick Morris seemed like any other troubled teenager, but beneath the surface, patterns of violence and disregard for others hid in plain sight. He was no stranger to the library, often waiting there for his mother after school at Bloomingdale High. But that night, he was waiting for a victim. Queena Vuong, 18 and full of promise, pulled into the library parking lot to return books. While talking to a friend on her cell phone, she mentioned seeing a man on the benches outside. It was 10:39 p.m. when her friend heard her scream, and the call abruptly ended. Her family's frantic search led them behind the library, where they discovered Queena battered and unconscious. The brutality of the attack was unimaginable, and it left scars that would never heal. Queena was left blind, unable to speak, and forever robbed of her ability to walk and swallow. The investigation quickly pointed to Morris. Forensic evidence matched him to the scene and to another violent assault on a 62-year-old daycare worker less than a year prior. And so, the pattern became clear. This wasn't a one-time outburst, but a calculated escalation of violence. Police were able to piece together the timeline. Witnesses recalled Morris lingering at the library after hours. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement also matched DNA from the crime scene to Morris, confirming that he was the perpetrator. During trial, the prosecution's case was airtight. The defense tried to paint a picture of a troubled youth, allegedly abused by his mother's partner. But the evidence spoke louder than any excuses. 2011 Judge Chet Tharp presided over the sentencing. He called the crimes especially heinous, atrocious, brutal, and cruel. He gave Morris 65 years without parole, a sentence meant to ensure public safety for decades. But the story didn't end there. Legal changes regarding juvenile offenders forced a resentencing. The Supreme Court ruled that juveniles must have a chance for parole, opening the door for Morris to potentially see freedom again. Queena's family, still caring for her every need, braced for the possibility of his release. But as the resentencing hearing approached, a new law allowed Judge Tharp to impose an even harsher sentence.
Life sentences are the only appropriate sentences in this case.
The courtroom was tense as the new sentence was read: life in prison, with a review possible in 2031. The judge acknowledged a doctor's opinion that Morris could be rehabilitated, but disagreed. The severity of the crimes outweighed any hope for redemption. Anna Donato, Queena's sister, spoke to reporters later. She said,
"I believe justice was served, but in the end, both lives are now sentenced to life."
The family filed suit against Morris's mother and grandmother, alleging negligent supervision. Morris had a juvenile record, a history of violence, and was under curfew restrictions. Yet he was allowed to roam free that night. Queena's mother documented their journey in the life she once knew, detailing the daily challenges and small victories in Queena's recovery. Every day is a battle, but they refuse to let Morris's actions define their lives.
It's not over. It's going to be a lifetime commitment taking care of my sister.
March 2, 2005, in a Sainsbury's supermarket bathroom in Leamington Spa, England, a girl's life changed forever. The story of a 15-year-old predator who took her innocence begins here in stark daylight with chilling calculation. This boy, who remains unnamed due to legal protections, seized his opportunity when he noticed the girl separated from her mother. Without hesitation, he dragged her into a toilet cubicle, covering her eyes and mouth. The attack, described by Judge Martin Coates as humiliating and degrading, only ended abruptly due to the fortunate arrival of another person into the restroom. The community couldn't believe that such violence could come from someone so young. Detective Chief Inspector Adrian Pearson, who led the investigation, recalled the disturbing calmness that prevailed. Even when first charged, the boy grinned in the dock, while barely able to see over the top of the box due to his small figure. Pearson noted,
"He was very cool when we went to see him. He said he had no involvement, and he was very calculating about it for someone who was 15. Telling the truth did not come easy to him, and that was part of his lifestyle."
What makes this case particularly haunting is the contrast between the boy's seemingly stable family background and his actions. He came from what Pearson described as a stable, loving, supportive family background, where you would not expect this sort of behavior to come from. Perhaps most chilling was his level of preparation. He brought condoms with him, showing premeditation that deeply disturbed investigators. This wasn't an impulsive act, it was planned. The 15-year-old initially tried to hide evidence, specifically his distinctive red, black, and gray hooded coat worn during the attack. It took 8 police interviews before he finally confessed to the assault. The victim's mother described how the attack transformed her daughter from bubbly and outgoing to fearful and withdrawn. Despite this, the victim herself displayed incredible courage. While driving through town with her mother days after the attack, she spotted her attacker, leading to his identification and arrest. Her mother strongly believed he should be named publicly, stating,
"If he is able to do such an adult thing, then I think why not name him?"
In the end, Judge Coates sentenced the boy to 9 years in juvenile detention for the main attack, plus 4 concurrent 18-month sentences for other incidents in the same town. This case forced the community to confront uncomfortable questions about juvenile offenders and the nature of evil. How could someone so young commit such a calculated act? But if you think this story is disturbing, the next case takes us even deeper into the twisted world of young predators. November 29, 1859, a child was born in Charlestown, Massachusetts, who would soon become the youngest person ever convicted of first-degree murder in the state's history. Jesse Harding Pomeroy was the second son of Thomas and Ruth Ann Pomeroy. From the outside, his early years seemed unremarkable. But by age 11, whispers began circulating about a fiendish boy targeting children in the area. Between 1871 and 1872, the attacks came in waves. He had at least 9 confirmed victims, all preteen boys. The pattern was chilling. He'd lure these boys to isolated spots, overpower them, strip them, and then torture them with sticks or rope. Witnesses describe Pomeroy as coldly methodical, sometimes even masturbating during these assaults. February 21, 1872, marked the first documented victim, Tracy Hayden, who was found beaten on Powderhorn Hill. Just months later, Robert Meyer was discovered battered in an abandoned Chelsea outhouse. Then, on July 22nd, Johnny Balch was found, tied up and beaten in another deserted outhouse. The Boston Globe sounded alarm bells, declaring the public considerably excited by the mysterious Chomo. August 1872 brought more attacks. George Pratt was found by fishermen, barely alive, on August 17th. Then, on September 11th, Joseph Kennedy was lured to a vacant boathouse, beaten and injured with a pocket knife. 6 days later, railway workers stumbled upon Robert Gould, tied to a telegraph pole, beaten and cut. Pomeroy's reign of terror came to an end when he made a fatal mistake, wandering into South Boston's Police Station 6 and catching the attention of officers inside. Joseph Kennedy, one of his victims, spotted him and immediately identified his attacker. Police moved quickly, arresting Pomeroy and uncovering a trail of horrors. He confessed to the attacks and was sentenced to 6 years at the State Reform School for Boys in Westborough, Massachusetts. February 1874, at just 14, Pomeroy was released on parole, an inexplicable decision that would soon result in tragedy. Within months, a girl named Katie Curran vanished. Her disappearance barely had time to register before a more gruesome discovery was made. April 22, 1874, the mutilated body of Horace Millen was found on the Dorchester Bay marshes. The evidence pointed squarely at Pomeroy, who was quickly apprehended. A subsequent search of his mother's dress shop uncovered Katie Curran's body, concealed in the basement ash heap. December 10, 1874, Jesse Pomeroy, the 15-year-old boy torturer, was convicted of first-degree murder. The jury, perhaps moved by his age, recommended mercy. Nonetheless, the death sentence was handed down, but Governor William Gaston refused to sign the warrant. After several tense council votes, Pomeroy's sentence was commuted to life in solitary confinement. Transferring to Charlestown State Prison at 16, Pomeroy spent decades locked away. He claimed to teach himself numerous languages, wrote poetry, and became a legal scholar, filing countless appeals for his own freedom. Yet his true nature never changed. Prison officials found homemade tools and escape contraptions. He even lost an eye after attempting to destroy his cell wall with a gas pipe. 1917, District Attorney Joseph Pelletier advocated for improved prison conditions for Pomeroy, who finally accepted life as a model prisoner. He appeared in prison minstrel shows and adjusted to general population privileges. By 1929, age and illness caught up, and he was transferred to Bridgewater Hospital for the criminally insane. September 29, 1932, Jesse Harding Pomeroy died, ending one of America's earliest and most disturbing cases. His legacy remains a chilling warning about the darkness that can reside in even the youngest souls. But even today, experts still can't fully explain what drove someone so young to commit such horrific crimes, and the next case is proof of that.
A scared 10-year-old girl hid inside this Boynton Beach house, afraid of two neighborhood boys.
May 2017, it was a typical afternoon in Boynton Beach, Florida. Kids played in the neighborhood, parents watched from porches, and everything seemed normal. But inside one home, a girl sat trembling, clutching a secret that would shatter her world and expose one of the most disturbing cases the juvenile justice system had ever seen. Just steps away from her own front door, two boys, one just 10, the other 12, had changed her life forever. The trauma began months earlier, before spring break, when the boys cornered her while she played outside. They threatened to beat her up if she didn't comply. Then they pushed her into the backyard of an abandoned house and committed unspeakable acts. After spring break, the 12-year-old struck again, alone this time, threatening to shoot up her house if she told anyone. The weight of these threats kept the girl silent for nearly 3 months. But on May 1st, she found the courage to write a note to a school staff member, revealing everything. That note triggered a police investigation that would uncover not just the crimes themselves, but a pattern of systemic failures in handling young offenders. When Boynton Beach police arrested the boys in June, the legal system faced a gut-wrenching choice. Both were charged with sexual battery, a life felony. But as juveniles, the focus shifted from punishment to rehabilitation. Both were found incompetent to stand trial. Instead, the judge hoped strict monitoring might steer them back on track. They were placed on an ankle monitor and ordered to attend counseling and alternative school, rather than being sent to juvenile detention. This decision placed the accused just blocks away from his terrified victim. The proximity wasn't just a technical oversight, it became a daily nightmare for the girl, forcing her to live in constant fear while her abusers remained free in her own neighborhood. The supposed safeguards quickly proved ineffective. The 12-year-old with 2 prior arrests failed to comply. He attended school only 25% of the time, earning nothing but failing grades. His ankle monitor, which was supposed to keep him home, was violated hundreds of times, according to his probation officer. The boy's mother, when questioned about his behavior, seemed dismissive, downplaying everything. One night, while supposedly confined to his home, the boy attended a party with his family. Outside a local market, he witnessed a fight and decided to watch, even as violence erupted around him. Gunshots rang out, and a bullet grazed him. His mother casually dismissed the injury.
Whatever it was, he was only just nipped in the back. It wasn't no major wound where he was laid out bleeding up or nothing. He was fine.
By this point, the probation officer's phone buzzed with violation alerts at all hours. The situation had spiraled so far out of control that even the judge, initially hopeful for rehabilitation, declared the boy ungovernable, unmanageable, and dangerous. 8 months after the initial arrest, the system finally acted. The boy was sent to a state juvenile competency center hundreds of miles away. But for the victim and her family, the damage was done. Not only had they endured the initial trauma, but they'd also suffered months of intimidation and constant fear as the accused roamed free in their neighborhood. The victim continued to receive state-funded counseling, but the scars, both physical and emotional, remain. If this story wasn't shocking enough, wait until you hear about the next case where a boy became one of the UK's youngest convicted doctor rapists. January 2016, in a quiet Plymouth neighborhood in England, an unspeakable crime was about to shatter a family forever. An 11-year-old boy would become one of Britain's youngest convicted rapists, targeting his own sister. The initial discovery came from a simple mobile phone. Hidden among the boy's digital files were disturbing images, proof that something was terribly wrong. When authorities examined his device, they uncovered undeniable evidence of not 1, but 2 separate attacks on his young sibling. At first glance, the perpetrator seemed like any other preteen. But beneath the surface, police found a troubled history marked by family instability and personal confusion. Still, nothing could explain or excuse what had happened behind closed doors in that Plymouth home. The case shook both law enforcement and the nation, leaving everyone asking the same question: how could a child commit something so horrific? The boy, whose identity remains protected by law, admitted to 2 counts of dacha rape. At an earlier hearing, the evidence was overwhelming, and his own confession left little doubt about the seriousness of his actions. He was brought before Bodmin Magistrates Court in Cornwall. There, District Judge Diane Baker faced the difficult task of balancing justice with the realities of dealing with such a young offender. Judge Baker made it clear that if the boy had been older, his sentence would be far more severe. She told him directly,
I've read all about you. I know a lot about what has happened in your life and your mom's life in the past, and the difficulties you faced and the confusion you face now about how you wish to lead your life.
But what you did was so serious and so damaging to your little sister. That will last with her for the whole of her life. The judge then ordered that he would be separated from his siblings until it was deemed safe. And she sent him to a 12-month intensive referral order, meaning he would work closely with counselors and youth workers to address his behavior. Strict internet supervision was imposed, and he was required to be signed into the sex offenders register for 2 years. The boy's mother, while devastated by the situation, expressed relief that her son would finally receive the help he so desperately needed. The offender himself agreed to work diligently with professionals and expressed a willingness to return to school to rebuild his life. This case forced the British justice system to confront complex questions about how to handle the case. It highlighted the need for specialized intervention and support for both victims and offenders. But if you think this is where the horror ends, the next case will show just how deep the rabbit hole goes when children commit the unthinkable. December 2009, in West London, 2 10-year-old boys were charged with the rape of a girl in a daylight attack. The girl's family immediately called the police after she returned home and told them what happened. Scotland Yard's Sapphire Unit, which specializes in child abuse offenses, took charge of the investigation. The Crown Prosecution Service quickly advised police to lay charges against both boys. But what had really happened, and how could boys this age do such a thing? The attack occurred in a local park, where the boys allegedly took the girl into the bushes and assaulted her. Officers from the Metropolitan Police's Specialist Unit quickly gathered evidence and built their case. The boys appeared in Uxbridge Magistrates Court the following day, facing serious charges that would test the limits of the justice system's ability to handle such young defendants. What made this case particularly disturbing was the age of everyone involved. While rare, this wasn't the first time such young children faced these kinds of charges in the UK. Just months earlier, an 8-year-old boy had been questioned in a similar case, but couldn't be charged because UK law states children under 10 can't be held criminally responsible. And despite this, the legal system still struggled with how to deal with these boys. The defense claimed the boys had simply been playing a game similar to doctors and nurses, but the judge rejected this explanation. He told the boys,
I do not accept that what happened was a game, but I do accept that you did not realize how serious what you were doing was.
During the trial, the girl gave evidence via video link from another room. Jurors heard how the boys lured her into some flats, then took her through a stairwell, a lift, and a bin shed before ending up in a field where the assault continued. The boys threw her scooter into a bush and refused to retrieve it unless she did what they told her. In the end, despite the serious nature of the crime, both boys were found guilty of 2 counts of attempted rape rather than full charges. The judge explained that imposing any kind of custodial sentence would be counterproductive and not in their best interests. Instead, they received 3-year supervision orders and were required to sign into the offenders register for 2.5 years. Their mothers also faced consequences, each receiving 12-month parenting orders and being required to notify authorities of their son's whereabouts. The judge acknowledged the victim's ordeal, stating,
Everyone will sympathize with her for what she has gone through, not only what happened to her as the victim of these offenses, but also to have to give evidence about them. I hope that she will be given all the help that she undoubtedly deserves to get over her experiences.
The case sparked intense debate about how to handle children who commit serious crimes. Some commentators questioned whether such a young offender should ever face criminal court. The judge addressed these concerns directly, saying, Can I urge everybody to remember that hindsight is a wonderful thing, and what might seem perfectly obvious in retrospect may have appeared less obvious at the time. Maggie Atkinson, the Children's Commissioner for England, commented,
The judge has recognized the two boys were very young and sentenced them accordingly. Children who do wrong must be made to face up to their actions in ways that are appropriate to their age and the severity of their crime.
As the boys began their supervision orders, the community was left struggling to make sense of it all. And maybe that's the hardest part. There are no clear answers. What do you think? Can someone so young ever truly understand the weight of their actions?